Hello and welcome. Here we are again, Tuesday noon. And
Hello,
I'll hand it
Karina.
over to Marianne right away because she's got some really cool stuff to talk about.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, as we have normally on Monday, our conversation. So yesterday it was really, again, a really interesting conversation we had. And what we catched finally, and I was sitting for a bit longer with it, was about how we are the biggest liars for ourselves. And what do I mean with that? Is that so often we say things, there are things coming out of our mouth, but in truth, it's not even for a second congruent with what we are saying. But because we are saying it, we believe it. And then we create some contraction with our body also because our bodies are saying, hey, but it's not quite that what you are wishing for.
Yeah.
So I became more and more clear also with, for example, accusing our bodies as though, like, yeah, but my body, blah, 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 as it is a judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then tapping into the earth, and I was thinking, huh? What is this? Because my body was really intense in a certain time when I thought really, I believe that my body had a judgment about me. I
Ah,
really, yes, I really thought that. But then it was after I had a session with someone, and it was also, yeah, she was not really connected with her body, etc., etc. And she came up with that same idea of, yeah, but my body is judging me because blah, 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 blah. So I went with her to take contact really with her body, and it was really outside of, but really far of her, really far. I never saw that before, how the distance it was, she was with her body. And I invited her at that moment, bring in, because she could reach for it. So to bring it in, to pull it in
mm-hmm.
towards her. And it was in that second that the energy was so clear about what the heck, so many times I believe my body has judgments over me. But
Mm-hmm.
what it truly is, when I am willing to commune with my body, to communicate with my body is so happy and it doesn't judge anything. And that's similar what I perceive and also experience with the earth is finally when we give it attention, when we commune, when we communicate with earth, no matter what we did with the earth, no matter what the distance was we kept from us with the earth, our bodies with the earth, earth is so happy to be acknowledged. And it says, here I am. So our bodies also says, here I am.
Yeah.
So from there also the congruency, earth bodies are always congruent because they don't have any judgment.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
got clear for me. How is, yeah, how is that sitting in your world?
I fully agree with you. And I would like to take it to something else, another area in our life, not just body. Because how often do we say, I would like to have more money? And then when I ask, so eventually, what do you like about not having money? Yeah, but I do like to have money.
Yeah.
And we think that this is how it's supposed to be. We think this is the answer that we are supposed to give. Yet somewhere deep down under layers, we have a belief system that in order to fit in, I cannot have more money than, and fill in the amount.
Yeah, judgment, you mean?
No, no judgment at all.
At all. At all.
So again, how are we lying to ourselves by making belief that we actually would like money while we have the belief that we don't like money in order to fit in? It's another
And
way of how we're lying to ourselves.
yeah, and can I add something on that?
Mhm.
As though, yeah, how many people say also, oh, I would love to have a 10 million billion or whatever, an
Yeah,
amount of money that it's such a big lie. Because when you tap into the energy, and I did also that exercise for myself, and asking, is it truly, am I truly willing to have such an amount on my account or whatever I want in gold or in jewelry? It doesn't matter. But it didn't fit, as you say, with my underneath beliefs. They didn't match, as though I am, or I was, I'm coming out of that, but I'm not worth to have that, or it's never possible to have that amount, or whatever the beliefs are underneath. And at the same time, Karina, isn't it, when we can go on believing that it is we would like to have, then we can maintain also the wrongness about ourselves or the beliefs we have about
yeah,
ourselves.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And to get back to money, when you started talking about million and billion, I remembered, I flashed back at the beginning of the year, I was playing the lottery every so often here. And it was really interesting. I was present with, oh, I could win the X amount of money. And initially, it was okay. 10 million, that was okay. But then when it got to the amount of 100 million, my head said, oh, yeah, that's okay. And I can do da 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 da. But energetically, I could perceive that there was, oh, no, that's too much.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for that because it gave me clarity. I'm not even going, and I'm aware how much people are saying, oh, I would like to have $1 billion. But I'm not even going there because I know that for me, this is not congruent.
Yeah. 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 That's so true. Because what is it? 100 million or 100 billion dollars? It's so far out of what we can get, what
Mhm.
it's truly about. We can perceive an energy, and even then, are we willing to perceive the true energy of that amount of money?
Are we willing to perceive how our body responds? Because I truly believe that perceiving the energy there, we need to have a connection to our body because we perceive the energy through our body.
Yeah.
And if we don't have that connection, then we're unable to perceive what is going on for us, besides the fact of being willing to be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. And not making it wrong when
No,
you catch yourself about the incongruencies there is, because I love it when I get it where or when, with whatever it is, I am incongruent. that's a joy in that way that, oh, and now, what am I going to choose now?
Yeah.
Am I willing to change something? Is it required to change
Yeah.
something? Because not always it is required. It's enough to
Yep.
acknowledge it
Yep.
and be with it, whatever it is. As though coming back to the beginning of our conversation with the earth and our bodies, when we commune and when we communicate and we are there in congruency with everything we are communicating, there is no longer judgment. Then everything is. And there is no need to go in whatever wrongness, not even also in whatever righteousness.
Yeah, the rightness. And the other question that is the earth, is nature, are plants or animals even entertaining those thoughts that we are entertaining? Or are they just, oh, this is
Yeah.
in a conversation?
Yeah.
There is not that, oh, I would like it different. I would like this. I would like that, and fantasize about it. Where we start getting into the territory of we start lying about, to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And how many times is it happening also with all the talking in our heads that even there thinking we are looking for the congruency, how much can that head taking
Mm-hmm.
us on the side road where in nature everything is. And this also the congruency, Karina, what I noticed is, as we spoke before, by for me in this case, is being more in commune with water, specifically the water in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And how would I say it? I chose lately to let the water leading me. Make that sense?
Yeah, you talked about that on Monday.
That the water, yeah, leading me. And that brings up there is intensity, but not in pain with my body, which is a big difference now, as though I know it's me. I
Mm-hmm.
choose to be different. And water is so, in a kind of way, smooth
Mm-hmm.
to go and show, but it can be also intense.
Yep.
Intense, but now I I receive the intensity different because I know I asked my body to show me, and I asked it
Mm-hmm.
literally to the water to show me when I'm not congruent, when I'm overriding it, because overriding our bodies is not being congruent,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So choosing to let the water lead me brings up a lot of intensity, and at the same time, it's not painful any longer. It's weird, but it is. Where before,
The
if
question,
yeah, ask.
the question is how much have we defined intensity as pain?
Mm,
Or how
yeah.
much are we allowing the intensity to be there in order for the awareness to come?
Hmm. Can you tell more about this?
How much are we entrained to have awareness? in this reality. Not really that much.
No.
So in order to have awareness and notice, oh, I'm having awareness right now, how much is intensity necessary to make it intense? Because now, oh, this is intense. Okay, I'm paying attention.
Yeah.
And if we define intensity as pain, we will do whatever we can to mitigate the pain, be it swallowing pills, be it doing this, that,
Yeah.
or the other. But if we do not identify intensity equals pain and are saying, oh, there's something intense going on, what is this? And then we are in a space where we can perceive the awareness that, you know, the universe is gifting us.
So going with that, is it also then when it's intense, but we go that it is pain, that we use the pain to dismiss
Yeah.
and to, yes.
Because pain is bad.
Yeah.
Therefore, we'll try to get rid of it in whichever way.
Yeah. Yeah, and isn't that interesting? Because I'm becoming aware now for myself that so often when I called it pain, so often I merged really in that pain and I dived in deep, go and looking for what the pain would tell me or would like to tell me. At the same time, not even for a second willing to receive. What I perceive now in this moment is really, but I was diving and I was merging in it and I was looking for, but all from conclusions, all from already the conclusions projecting. So I was looking for the answer or the place or the information that matched that conclusion, even though I wasn't really cognitively aware of that conclusion, but that's the energy I catch now. And that's also what's different lately. While it looks like, could it be that consciousness of water is really intense present consciousness, that consciousness, that intensity overrides every conclusion, that it is an invitation to let go of conclusions and really becoming present with what is.
What's popping for me right now is I'm wondering how many conclusions are in there.
Yeah.
Did you go, and do a lot of people go? Because I don't think you are unique in that sense, that we look for what is the information in the pain, because that is what we're supposed to do if we want to grow spiritually. So there you have already a whole host of preconceived notions. I think what the biggest point is, water has no point of view.
Yeah.
And the moment we go into point of view, we already go into conclusion, definition, etc., etc.
Yeah, and that is what I got clear now. By going with the water, water is that invitation from the intensity it has of pureness, of no point of view, of it is what it is, that it is the invitation for me, for us, to let go of, which is nature in general, isn't it?
That's just what I wanted to say. This is for whatever aspect of nature a person is attracted to. it always will be something without having a point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we are willing really to come out of the incongruency and being congruent in everything, then it is required to be interesting point of view.
Mm-hmm. To be out of judgment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on some level, I'm chuckling because here we go again. I mean, it's not the first time in these conversations that we're talking about judgment.
Yeah.
And the difference between being in judgment versus being out of judgment. But it keeps coming back to that. And are we willing to really, truly recognize how much judgment is limiting, is screwing us up in all kinds of different ways?
That is so true, Karina. It is mind-blowing how
Yeah.
much judgment we use, and especially the more refined judgment. Oh yeah, that brings me, I'm not sure it was yesterday we spoke about it, but that the matrix, and then coming out of clearly the matrix as though the more solid structure of the
Yeah.
matrix, but then all the refined energies of refined matrix coming out of that, and all those judgments there in it, it's mind-blowing for me. I truly, I wasn't, if you told me this, the energy we speak to now, even a year ago, I would say, is that really true?
And same goes for me. And what I want to add is how much do we define judgment as negative
Yeah,
judgment and do not include the so-called positive judgment? Because if we judge something as being good or right, it's as much judgment as when we say something is bad or wrong.
yeah, yeah. And for my experience is also when I was willing to look at the positive judgments, my reality expanded even more
Yeah.
than when going to look and have let go of the negative, because they stuck us, as though when it is something positive it looks like, or it is defined as then it's okay, then you don't have to
Yeah.
do anything with it, then you can go with it, then you blah 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 blah.
We're way more willing to let go of something that is labeled negative than something that is positive.
And could it also be that letting go, yes, but that we are also more willing to have a look
Yeah.
at the negative, because the positive, and even though is the positive judgments, are they truly being acknowledged in this reality as judgment?
No.
No, that
No.
that
I mean, I remember a year ago talking, or maybe even more than a year ago, talking with a psychologist that about judgment, and she had absolutely no problem when we talked about negative judgment. And when I told her, are you aware that there is something called a positive judgment, and we define something as good or right, that it is as limiting as a negative, so-called negative judgment? And she was just dumbstruck with it. And she admitted, I've never, ever looked at it that way.
yeah, and that was the same for me.
Yeah,
When that came
me.
across in my reality, I thought, what the heck is this?
Yeah,
But I knew there was immediately a sense that it is true, that
yeah.
it is even more limiting than all those others, because the kind of types, negative judgments, they are in our reality, and they are most likely prominent there in our reality,
Hmm.
where those positive judgments, flying, flowing, sitting, being, and we don't have to be present with them because it's all good, it's all fine, it's all right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And
And
how
we
many
also,
times?
yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go.
No, no, you go ahead this time.
Also with those, the incongruency
Yeah,
is, how much more incongruency is there often in the positive
yeah.
judgments?
You read my
Because when
mind.
something is negative, then we are aware that it's negative, and we have really that intensity in completely in our bodies, in our minds, in our senses. Then it is there. But the positives, I'm not so sure.
And I want to throw in an additional loop that I just became aware of. How much are we mixing awareness and judgment?
Tell more.
When I have an awareness about somebody, let's say a person is lying,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and I'm judging that person as a liar. No, I'm just aware that that person is lying, and I will take everything that that person is saying with a big grain of salt
yeah,
and ask a question. Is this true or is this false? Is
yeah,
this congruent or incongruent? And how much are we again whitewashing an awareness of somebody being kind with the definitions that we have of what kindness is in my world, in my vocabulary, without seeing what kindness is for that person.
yeah. And in general, also kindness, in how many definitions are there in this reality, what kindness is, as though, yeah, I grew up with what kindness is when you're laughing, when you are, oh, thank you this, oh, thank you that,
A
and
nice
how
love.
can I help you? And I do this for you, and I do this for you, even though that everything inside is screaming of, what
No.
the heck are you doing? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And the same thing is with the word of love. Oh, love is the one that heals. Love is this, love is that. And in a recent conversation, I just asked the person, so how many definitions do you think that people have what love is? Which totally, huh? What do you mean? Love is what I think love means.
yeah.
It's not that everybody else has a completely different definition of what love means.
So true.
And
So true. And that's perhaps one of the energies that is the most judged and has the most definition.
that is the one thing. And for me, the clue is really, if love is what even some people agree on that love is, why do we even need to talk about unconditional love? Because if we need to
That,
talk about unconditional love, that means that love is usually conditional,
yeah,
which is not what people understand mostly as love being.
yeah. But that, Karina, even that word, unconditional love, means that there is conditional love. But even that saying, what is that for you, unconditional love? Because from the definition I have of love, from that aspect, I will define also what then the unconditional love is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how many definitions, different definitions has unconditional love also? And this brings me, during my period, I was working with mental diseases, etc. There came in the house a person who lived with her parents for 45, she was at that moment, or 46 years old. But she grew up with parents that were not that intelligent to have children, but hey, they had children. And it was a quite violent environment.
Mm-hmm.
And she grew up as literally nearly being the slave of the parents and her brother. She did everything, and her dad was an alcoholic. And even then, when he threw up, or when, he made everything. No, I'm not going into the details, but she was really a slave. And when both parents died, she needed to go into a home. So she came in. But then, when she was approached with kind words and soft words and love, kindness, she exploded. Because for her, in her world, that was nothing about kindness. That was nothing about love. Because love for her was screaming, yelling, being a
Abusive.
slave. That was the love for her. So it took us quite a while to, yeah, to peel off all those definitions and to open up something different for her. And even up till now, 25 years later, nearly, she still goes with quite a few of her definitions about what love is. So mentioning this, it's extreme the other side, but everything in between.
Yeah.
So what is then the unconditional love? What is that?
Yeah.
Is there something as unconditional?
Yeah. And it brings me to something. Can we receive what you said, can we receive kindness, love, whatever, if it does not fit the personal definition
Yeah, yeah,
that someone has of what that is and how that
yeah.
looks like and how that gets expressed?
Yeah, that was clearly with that person
Yeah.
as the true kindness. She exploded. She couldn't receive it. It was really like a war for her. It's like, what are you doing? You are
Yeah.
threatening me.
Yeah.
While when somebody else screamed to her in a matter of way, she licked the butt of that other person because that was what she knew.
Yeah.
Because your parents,
I'm
when that
supposed
is
to
the
love
way your
you.
parents express themselves,
Yeah.
that's what you are conditioned with, that is the love of a parent. And a parent has unconditional love for their children.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
insane is this? Yeah, it's something that's waking up now for me, as though so many parents say it. I have so much love, but for my children, I have unconditional love. That's another
And
kind.
how much do parents say, I say this, I do this because I love you,
Oh, yes.
and actually are abusive?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's for your best will, and it's
Yeah.
because I
I just
I
want,
love you so much. I don't want this and this and this and this, so therefore that and that and that and that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And even the insanity of that. Only now for a second I went into the earth and in nature. It's like what?
What the heck are you guys doing?
Nothing of that energy is there.
Yep.
You you can't catch anything of that, anything. And even when you go with a florist where there are different trees, etc., nothing is fighting against, for everything can be.
Mm-hmm.
But we, human race, with all our unconditional love, we are fighting and we are saying how much air you can breathe in, how much water you can drink.
And I mean, I'm just coming out of the week of Earth Day. How much are we talking about, oh, I'm loving the earth? And at the same
Mm,
time, the way I show my love is actually abusive. And what I mean with that is that in one way or another, we are destructive,
yeah. And
which
I
is
can add,
incongruent.
which is because I can add there on something that was on for me also as loving the earth. But I was so mad at my body, so judgmental about my
Mm-hmm.
body, that only that is an incongruency,
Yeah,
big,
big time.
big
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So yeah, and you know, Karina, for me it is. I'm getting also there more clarity about how much incongruency there is in my reality, where I wasn't
Not
aware of.
just you.
Oh yeah, oh I thought so. It's just only me,
Yeah. I
and that is the fun and the joy. The last year I truly have. It's a big year. It's a big year in a way of yeah, becoming a lot more aware, a lot more conscious of what is going on with me, with my reality towards this reality, the reality, whatever it is. And it is really an intensity, and it was not always comfortable, far from, but every day having more comfort with the uncomfortable and even having more joy, even with the uncomfortable.
yeah. And looking back over, because I mean, it'll be another month, but then we were basically getting into the anniversary month. Um, how much I have grown and become aware of things just because we are having those conversations.
Yeah.
You know, oh, if this is, then how am I with that? And what is going on here? There is so much more awareness that has been happening. And in some way, my sense is that it is also reflected in the way we have the conversations, in the length of the conversation, what we're talking about. And I really am absolutely grateful for having those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, Karina. And it's so true. And when you came up with, yeah, the creation you are on Earth as teacher, that's really what happened since we allowed ourselves to have those conversations
Yeah.
and to go with it. Yeah, so grateful we are doing this, we are having this, and what's opening up.
What will it create? What does it create currently? What future will it create? Where can it go?
And I acknowledge also that going in general, what's happening in the world, there are more people becoming conscious. And with the
Mhm.
conversations we have, also they're perceiving more and more ease, also with where we can go with the conversations.
And what I just realized now, from this reality's perspective, I could say our conversations are not really successful because we do not have a ton of participants and people following us, and. Yet, we are putting energies, we're putting ideas into the air that other people in other places pick up with us without us being aware of it.
Yeah.
But the change is happening. And are we willing to acknowledge that the change that we're intending is actually happening?
Yeah. And that's so beautiful that you bring this up, Karina, because also that is something I am willing to look at and to be with, acknowledging the choices we make now,
Mm-hmm.
what that creates in
Yeah.
the future. Yeah. And isn't it so that perhaps knowing, even not cognitively knowing what it is creating, but knowing that it is creating,
Yeah.
that it is for us more than enough to go on and to
Yeah.
keep
Keep
having
going.
those
Yeah.
conversations. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then let's make a short announcement of something we have decided just before we started going live. And the idea came that May, M, stands for movie. And that in May, we will have a movie for each of our conversations and looking closer at that movie. And I don't know yet, we don't know yet what each Tuesday is going to be in regards to movie, but just so you are aware that this is where we're planning on going for May, and we may not continue it in June. June may be something totally different again.
Yeah,
Let's be
June
flexible.
can be a month about joy, the G of joy. You never know.
Oh, we could do that. We could do each month according to its first letter. What options are there? What possibilities?
Everything is possible.
Play.
So thank you, Karina,
Thank
again.
you, Marianne, for being such a wonderful partner in crime.
Yes, partner in crime for future. And somebody will talk about us, who knows, within 500 years.
Yep.
And perhaps we will be the same persons talking about us 500 years from now. You never know what else is possible.
Exactly.
See you
So,
next week, Karina.
see you next week. Thank you for being here.
Bye bye.